Title: I Rode the Devil's Horse, and Now I Can't Get Off the Ride begins. They say there's a trail that appears only under the blood moon, hidden deep in the Appalachian woods, where the trees don't rustle and no birds sing. Locals speak of a cursed path leading to an old, rotting stable. It's would blacken with age, its roof slanted like a sneer. I'd heard the stories all my life, pass around late at night, like ghost stories are supposed to be, but I never believed them, until I went looking for it. It started with a dare, like most bad decisions. My friends and I were on a weekend hiking trip. Jason had heard the story from his grandfather, who swore he saw the devil's horse once, with eyes like molten coal and breath that steamed even in summer. They all laughed when I said I'd go find it. "You'll piss your pants if you even hear a squirrel," Lisa smirked, lighting a cigarette. "Yeah." I grinned. "Bet me? $20, says I find the devil's stable before sundown." "Deal," Jason said, pulling out his phone to start the timer. "You've got 2 hours. After that, we come looking for your corpse." I smiled and walked into the woods with false bravado. My flashlight bounced across twisted trees and gnarled roots. The deeper I went, the colder it got, the air heavy with silence. Not even the buzzing of insects. I should have turned back. But pride makes fools of us all. 40 minutes in, I found it. The trail appeared out of nowhere. 1 second I was pushing through brambles, and the next I was walking on a narrow dirt path, curved like a serpent's spine, lined with thorns that reached out like fingers. The sun dimmed. The light reddened. I looked up and my breath caught. The blood moon had risen, early and full, like an angry eye in the sky. I followed the path. It led me to the stable, just like the story said. It squatted at the edge of a dried-up riverbed, hunched and sagging under its own weight. The wood was warped and black, as though it had been struck by lightning 100 times. Chains dangled from iron hooks above the doors. The smell was worst, like rotting meat mixed with sulfur and old hay. I crept closer. Inside, the air was thick and choking. Dust danced like spirits in my flashlight beam. And then I saw it, the horse. It stood at the center of the stable, tethered by a single rusted chain, towering. Its coat was pitch black, darker than shadow, gleaming unnaturally. Its eyes burned, not metaphorically, but literally. Orange embers flickered in deep sockets, and its breath steamed like smoke. Its mane looked like it was made of coals, smoldering without burning. And it turned to me. I froze. My legs refused to obey. The horse stepped forward. The chain snapped like thread. Something told me to run. But something stronger told me to mount it. I don't know why. I just did. I climbed onto its back, gripping the rough, bristled mane. As soon as I touched it, the air shifted. The walls of the stable melted. The floor dropped out, and the world screamed. We galloped, no, rocketed, through a hellish landscape. Fire and ash, trees on fire, rivers of blood. The sky was a swirling mess of red clouds and flashes of lightning with no thunder. Faces screamed from the ground below us. Ghosts with empty eyes reached up, their mouths stretching in agony. The horse didn't run on the ground. It ran through it, phasing in and out of reality. I screamed, but no sound left my mouth. I don't know how long we rode. Time lost all meaning. It could have been hours, or centuries. My hands burned where they touched the horse's mane. My eyes watered from smoke that wasn't there. And still we rode on. Then, without warning, we stopped. We were on the same trail again. Same forest. Same trees. Only it wasn't. The colors were off. Too pale. The shadows moved even without wind. I slid off the horse, legs trembling. My hands were blistered. My boots were soaked with something thick and red. The horse just stared at me, unmoving. And then it vanished. Vanished. No hoofbeats. No smoke. It just blinked out of existence. I stumbled through the woods, back to camp, heart pounding like a war drum. When I found the others, they were all sitting around the fire, laughing, talking. But something was wrong. Lisa looked up and her face paled. "Dude, where the hell have you been?" "What do you mean?" I croaked. My throat felt like sandpaper. "You've been gone 3 days." I laughed, but it sounded brittle. No, I left 2 hours ago. Jason shook his head, eyes wide. We searched for you yesterday, and the day before. We even called the park rangers. My legs gave out. I sat hard on the ground. My hands were still blistered. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the horse's eyes glowing in the dark. I heard the pounding of hooves behind my ears. I felt fire in my palms. The next morning, I woke up to hoof prints outside my tent, deep, charred into the earth, leading away from camp. I followed them. They led me back to the stable, but the stable wasn't there. Only the path remained. I should have left it alone, but I didn't. I felt drawn back, like an invisible rope wrapped around my spine. Every night, I heard it, the sound of hooves, growing louder, closer. The burn in my hands got worse. I tried creams, ointments, prayers. Nothing worked. Then, 2 nights ago, I saw it again, in the clearing near my house, standing still, waiting. The horse. I tried to run. I swear I did, but my legs moved toward it. I climbed on again, and now I can't get off. Every night we ride, through forests made of bone, across oceans of ash. I've seen cities swallowed by flame. I've seen children with mouths sewn shut, waving from twisted swing sets. I've seen myself burned and screaming, riding the same beast, eyes hollowed out, mouth open in a silent scream. I don't know where we're going. I don't know what it wants. But I know this. I can't stop. I can't get off. Every night it finds me. Every night I climb on, and the ride begins again. God help me. I think I'm becoming part of it. Hooves in the walls. It started with the sound of hooves. Not outside, not on dirt or stone, or even the floorboards. The hooves thudded inside my walls, slow and heavy, like something circling me from within the bones of my house. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I'd wake up at 3:17 a.m. every night, drench in sweat, and stare at the cracked ceiling until dawn. But one night, I left my phone recording next to my bed. When I played it back in the morning, the sound was there, clear as a heartbeat, hoofbeats thudding in patterns. I showed it to no one. Who would believe me? I stopped going to work. I couldn't sit in meetings while my hands felt like they were burning through my skin. I'd wear gloves to cover the red marks, but they still throbbed with every second. Sometimes I'd find black horsehair tangled in my sheets, or ash smeared across the bathroom mirror. My water ran hot, even when I turned the cold tap. I moved the mattress into the living room to escape the sound of my walls, but the hooves followed. I slept less and less. When I did sleep, I dreamed of fire and motion. I wasn't riding anymore in those dreams. I was running, galloping through a world soaked in nightmare. Behind me, chains dragged through the dirt. Something whispered in my ear in a language I didn't know. The worst part? I could feel something in my chest, like a second heart, a smaller, angrier heart that pulsed only at night. One morning, I looked in the mirror and noticed something sticking out of my back. A thin, black hair, coarse and long. I pulled at it. It was embedded in my skin. I screamed as I yanked it free. A trickle of black blood followed, thick and oily. The pain nearly knocked me out. That day I tried to leave, packed a bag, got in my car, drove east. But 30 minutes into the drive, the sky darkened. Clouds churned overhead like boiling tar. My GPS glitched and looped in circles. Every sign I passed said the same thing. Red Hoof Road. There is no Red Hoof Road in this state. My gas ran out near dusk, and I found myself parked beside an open field. In the center stood a single tree, dead, twisted, with something hanging from one of its limbs. I didn't want to look, but my neck turned anyway, and I saw what it was. A saddle, burned, still smoldering. Beneath it, hoofprints ringed the tree like a ritual circle, steaming in the cool air. I sat in the car until dawn, gripping the steering wheel, teeth chattering. When the sun rose, the field was empty. No tree, no prints, no saddle, just flat grass. I drove back home, didn't remember the trip, just blinked, and I was on my street. The front door was open. Inside, Everything was rearranged. My furniture turned upside down. The walls were scratched, not like from claws, but from hooves. Thick gouges dragged in circles. In the center of the living room lay a single horseshoe. It glowed faintly, too hot to touch. When I leaned close, I could hear whispers coming from it. That night, I couldn't hold back anymore. I went outside at midnight, barefoot, shivering in a t-shirt. I waited on the lawn, and sure enough, the wind died. The trees hushed, and from the darkness, I heard the sound of hooves. It emerged from the shadows like it had always belonged there. The devil's horse. It stood motionless under the yellow flicker of the streetlight, its eyes embers, its mane coals. Steam rolled from its nostrils. I climbed on. This time, the world didn't melt. Instead, it sharpened, became more real. I saw the colors of the stars. Bleeding red. The moon split open like an eye. We galloped through suburbs where every house was on fire and no one screamed. Past churches turned upside down. Through graveyards that sang. I heard voices from the wind. People I knew. My mother. My childhood dog. A girl I'd kissed in high school. They all spoke at once, begging me to turn back. But the horse wouldn't stop. It rode through dimensions, slicing between layers of reality like paper. When we finally stopped, we were in front of my childhood home. Only it wasn't how I remembered it. The siding was scorched. The front door hung off one hinge. Inside, shadows moved even when there was no light. I dismounted and stepped toward the porch. The horse didn't follow. Inside, the air was thick, metallic, like old blood. I walked through rooms that weren't mine. Some were mine but wrong. Details twisted. A birthday party frozen mid-celebration. Balloons deflated. Cake moldy. Guests turned to ash statues. My old bedroom, but the bed was filled with hay. A black bridle hung from the ceiling, swaying. In the mirror above the dresser, my reflection grinned, even though I didn't. Its eyes were black. Its teeth sharp. It whispered something I couldn't hear, but I nodded. I felt it in my bones. When I turned around, the horse was inside the house, though the door hadn't opened. It was standing in the hallway, watching me, waiting. I mounted again. We rode through the floor, through fire, through centuries. We didn't stop. Now, every time I return, I'm somewhere else. Sometimes in a version of my apartment where the walls bleed. Sometimes in a town with no people, only hoofprints in every room. Once, I came back to a world where the sky was pitch black at noon and horses stood in every driveway, their riders looking just like me, but hollow. I don't know what the horse wants, but I feel less human every time. My fingers crack like hooves. My voice comes out raspy, like whinnies. My dreams aren't dreams anymore. They're memories. The devil's memories. I stopped eating last week. Don't feel hunger. Don't feel cold. Just the itch in my back where something's growing. I caught a glimpse of it in the mirror today. Bone. Curved like a spur. Something pushing out. Something equine. The phone rings every day at 3:17 a.m. I don't answer. I know who it is. Sometimes I hear other riders. I passed one last night on the path. A woman. Her face was burned, eyes gone, mouth sewn shut. She nodded to me as we crossed dimensions. We both knew. We both rode. We're not alone. There's an army, and it's growing. The rider's path. The third time I returned, it wasn't in my home or any version of it. It was to a road, long, cracked, abandoned. The signs on either side were rusted blank, as if the names had been eaten away by time itself. The sky above was red, not the color of sunset, but the color of infection. Something hung in the air, invisible but heavy. My breath fogged even though it was warm. I was still on the horse, still fused to it. I didn't remember mounting this time. I never do anymore. It's like waking into a nightmare you forgot you chose. The reins weren't in my hands anymore. They were part of my hands. Where my fingers once were, now there were black leather cords braided into the beast's mane. Other riders appeared ahead, one by one, dozens. Some male, some female, some neither, some with skin scorched off. others covered in soot or bone armor, or nothing at all riding horses with eyes like coals, hooves that didn't touch the ground. They galloped without sound, without dust, without breath. I wasn't alone anymore. I was part of something ancient, something coming. We rode in a line that stretched across the horizon, each rider locked into the pace, into the rhythm. It was like music, but made of pain and fire and memory. I saw flashes in the road beneath me, scenes from other lives, children crying under floorboards, a woman screaming in an empty hospital hallway, a man bearing his own face in a field of salt. The road narrowed, sloped upward, and we entered the forest. Not the one from before. This one was made of petrified trees, gray, crumbling, groaning when the wind touched them. The sky disappeared. Only the hoofbeats remained, echoing through the dead wood like drums of war. I tried to speak to the rider beside me, a man with no mouth, just slits where his lips had been sewn shut with barbed wire. His head turned slowly toward me. His eyes were hollow. Still I heard him, not through sound, through thought. "You're changing." "I know." I answered, but not with words. It came out of me as sensation, pain, confusion, acceptance. "There is no getting off," he said. "The moment you took the first ride, you started becoming." "Becoming what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his chest, split it with cracked fingers, and pulled out something black and writhing. A heart, or a stone shaped like one. He threw it to the side of the path, and it vanished in a puff of red ash. Then he rode forward, faster, until he vanished. I didn't know where we were going. I still don't. But all the riders were pulled toward the same destination, like stars collapsing into a black hole. There was no choice, no will, only the ride. Hours or lifetimes. Later, we reached a wide, flat field. At its center stood a tower made entirely of horse skulls. It reached higher than any building I've ever seen, twisting into the clouds. Screams poured from its cracks. The hooves of our horses struck the dirt in unison. One by one, we dismounted, and none of us touched the ground. We hovered, inches above, as if the earth had rejected us. A figure waited at the base of the tower, cloaked, head low, holding something, a halter made of rusted iron and fire. It stepped forward and began placing it on each rider, one at a time. When it got to me, I tried to back away. I tried to scream, but I didn't have a mouth anymore. I saw it in the reflection of my horse's eye. My lips were gone. Smooth skin stretched across where they'd been, and my eyes were black. Not empty, not hollow, burning. The halter was placed over my head. It burned. I didn't cry out. I couldn't. The figure whispered one word into my head, cold and final. "Chosen." And just like that, we began to ascend. The horses walked up the side of the tower, not steps, just a sheer wall, as if gravity had changed for us, or we no longer obeyed its laws. I lost sight of the ground, lost sight of sky. Everything was bone and ash in motion. Inside the tower, we passed windows. Through each one, I saw myself in different lives, some peaceful, some horrid. In one, I was old, dying in a hospital bed, alone but content. In another, I was a killer, burying bodies under a cabin. In another still, I was never born at all. Every life I might have lived, gone, burned away, replaced with this. At the tower's peak, there was a room, round, lined with mirrors. Each one showed my face, not as I am, but as I will become. Horns sprouting, eyes replaced with fire, a skeletal smile, hooves where hands should be. I touched the mirror. It was warm. The reflection blinked. I didn't. The devil stood behind me. I never saw his face, but I felt him. He wasn't loud or violent. He was still, like gravity, like inevitability. He placed a hand on my shoulder. It felt like all of winter compressed into a single touch. "You were always going to ride," he said. And then I woke up, on my floor, in my apartment, or something that looked like it. Only now, the walls are covered in hoof prints. The floor creaks under unseen weight. My shadow doesn't move when I do. And in the mirror, Sometimes I see the horse behind me, waiting, ready, the hoof print mark. I can't remember the last time I blinked. Not truly. Sleep doesn't come anymore. Not the way it used to. I lay still sometimes, body frozen, eyes wide open in the dark, but my mind, it gallops. It gallops so far and so fast that when I come back, whole days are gone. The clock spins. My food rots. The phone rings and stops. But no one leaves messages anymore. They must have stopped trying. There's a hoof print on my chest now. Not a bruise. A mark. Black. Burned into the skin like a brand. It pulses at night. Glows faintly when the world goes quiet. When I put my ear to it, I hear breathing. Not mine. Heavy. Equine. Waiting. The hallway outside my apartment changed last night. I opened my front door, and instead of the chipped tiles and flickering ceiling light, there was dirt, dry, cracked earth, fence posts with no fences, and silhouettes, dozens of them, motionless, riders, all facing me. I shut the door, waited. When I opened it again, the hallway was back, but not entirely. The smell remained. Sweat, burnt hair, blood. I think I brought something back with me. There's a clicking sound under my bed now. Not every night. Just when I'm alone. It's the sound of metal on wood. A shoe. A hoof. One, not four. Something limping around underneath, dragging itself slow. I haven't looked. I won't. I try to talk to someone about it. I went to the old bookstore downtown, where Mrs. Hadley always sat behind the counter reading old Gothic novels. She knew stories. She knew things. But when I walked in, she looked up and froze. Her book fell from her lap. You've got the mark, she said, voice cracking like glass. She backed away, shaking. What does it mean? I asked, but she just muttered, over and over, You're not supposed to be here. You rode. You can't be here anymore. When I reached across the counter, she screamed. Not a scream of fear, of recognition. Don't touch me. Your hands, they're not yours. I looked down. For a split second, they weren't. They were hooves. Black, cracked, with fetlocks twitching where my wrist should be. Then they were hands again. Mine, pale, trembling. I ran. Since that day, mirrors won't hold my reflection for long. They show me at first, tired, hollow-eyed, gaunt. But if I stare too long, something else takes over. My mouth grins too wide. My eyes turn dark. I lean in, even when I don't. Sometimes me in the mirror moves first. I started seeing the others again. Riders. They come at night, standing still at the foot of my bed, all with burned skin, all with mouths missing or stitched. Their eyes weep ash. They don't speak aloud, but their thoughts echo through the walls like thunder. Soon. Again. Ride. One of them, I think it was the same woman I passed in the woods, stepped closer last night. She reached toward me, her skeletal hand dragging a line of frost through the air. When she touched my chest, the hoof print flared. She whispered, He's growing inside you, and vanished. I found something under my skin the next morning, near my ribs, a hard shape, not bone. When I pressed on it, it shifted. I threw up black bile. My fingernails have started to darken, curl, like they're thickening into something unnatural. The horse, my horse, is always near now. I never see it, not directly, but I hear its breath behind every closed door. I smell sulfur and haze soaked in blood. When I sleep, if I sleep, I ride. Not willingly, but I ride. Each ride is shorter now, more violent. We crash through landscapes made of memory. My father's face, melting. My school hallway, flooded with smoke. A house I've never seen, full of whispers calling my name. Sometimes I see him, the one with the halter, the one who chooses. He stands at the edge of every ride, arms outstretched, holding the bridle. I try not to meet his gaze, because when I do, I remember things I've never lived. I remember fire raining from a sky of hooves. I remember leading the riders across fields of screaming souls. I remember being him. I wake up with dirt under my fingernails. Not regular dirt. Grave dirt. Cold. wet, full of bone fragments. My shoes are always muddy now, even if I never leave the apartment. Someone's knocking at the door right now. Slow, deliberate, not fists, hooves. They're not knocking to come in. They're reminding me I can't stay. Every clock in my apartment stopped at 3:17 a.m. the second the ride began. I heard whispering through the sink last night, not the pipes, the water. It spoke in a voice that sounded like my own. Ride again, or rot. I don't know if I'm alive anymore. Not really. My heartbeat is too slow. My skin too cold. Time doesn't move like it used to. Some days vanish. Some stretch. Some echo. But I feel the hooves. Everywhere I go. Every step. Getting closer. The saddle beneath my skin. I woke up in the tub. Water ice cold. Full of mud. My clothes were soaked. Torn at the shoulders. There were hoof prints pressed into my thighs. Deep ones. As though something stood on me in my sleep. I couldn't move at first. My spine ached. My chest felt hollow, like something had been scooped out and replaced with embers. The mirror above the sink had shattered overnight, not from an impact, from pressure from the inside. Something inside me wants out. I limped into the living room. The curtains had been torn down. The windows were smeared with handprints. No, hoof prints. As though something reared up on its back legs and watched me sleep through the glass. The furniture had moved again. The couch was now pushed against the front door. The TV turned on by itself and played nothing but static. Through it, I could hear galloping. Fast. Approaching. Never stopping. I tried burning the clothes I always wake up in, the ones from the rides. But they wouldn't catch fire. The flame curled away from the fabric, hissing like it recognized the cloth. The mud on them hardened, cracked like old blood, and something inside me screamed the moment I tried to toss them into the trash. My hand jerked back like it touched a live wire. My fingers bled. The hoof print on my chest, it's growing. Now it stretches across my collarbone and up the side of my neck. I see veins turning black beneath the skin, like ink in water. When I run my fingers over it, my breath catches in my throat. It's not pain. It's reverence. Like my body remembers something my mind won't let me face. I thought about ending it. I really did. But when I held the knife to my wrist, the blade melted, just like that. The metal ran like wax, pooling in my lap and hissing like it was alive. My arm pulsed beneath the skin and the hoof print glowed. I heard the sound again then, from the hallway. Not knocking this time. Scraping, like hooves dragging across the wood. Closer, slower, not just one set. Many, all pacing, waiting. There are voices now, in every faucet, in every pipe, in the wires behind the walls. Sometimes I hear myself, begging, screaming. Other times I hear him. You were never meant to walk, he says. You were born to ride. I dream of the saddle now, but not the one on the horse. The one beneath my skin. It's part of me. Bone-wrapped, leather-threaded through muscle. I feel it tighten every time the sky goes dark. I feel reins wrapping around my ribs like they're always there, just waiting to be pulled. Tonight, I woke up outside, in a field I've never seen. No buildings, no roads, just endless fog and a wooden post rising from the earth. At the top of it, a bridle, rusted, still wet with blood. My name was carved into the leather. And behind me, I felt the breath. Hot, burning, hungry. I turned, and there it was, him, the devil's horse. It isn't like anything from this world. Its skin is stretched too tight over a skeletal frame. Its eyes burn like black suns. Its teeth, it has too many. And all of them are human. It didn't move. It just stared. I wanted to run. I tried. But my legs, my traitorous, rotting legs, stepped forward instead. The reins were already in my hands before I even realized I had reached for them. The saddle, slick and hot, pulled me into it, and then we were off, faster than light, through fields of bone, over rivers of ash, past trees that screamed as we passed, their branches reaching for me like broken arms. I saw cities burning, Children crying from windows with no faces. I saw myself galloping into a town I used to know, dragging something behind me, something alive. Every ride takes something from me, but leaves something worse behind. This time, when I returned, I wasn't alone. There was a hoof print burned into my floor, a trail of ash leading to my bed, and someone sleeping in it, someone who looked just like me, until they opened their eyes, and I realized they were hollow, empty, a shell, a mockery of what I once was. It smiled at me and whispered, "Rest now. I'll ride tonight." I haven't blinked since. The ones who fell off. The apartment's light doesn't work anymore. The bulbs twist in their sockets when I flip the switch, as if recoiling from me. I live in candlelight now. It flickers no matter how still the air is, casting shadows that don't belong to any object in the room. They move on their own, twitching and tilting like they're listening. Last night, I found hoof prints on the ceiling, and blood on the doorknob. Not mine. The thing that wore my face, that laid in my bed after the last ride. It's still here. I catch it sometimes. Watching me, it stands just around corners, half visible in reflections. It mimics me, my posture, my voice, my memories, but it's getting bolder. It hums now, a tune I don't know, the same melody I sometimes hear during the rides, when the wind sounds too much like screaming. I spoke to it once, or tried. I turned fast, hoping to catch it off guard. It was standing in the hall mirror, unmoving. "Why are you here?" I asked. My voice cracked. It smiled and whispered, "I'm the you who didn't get off." That's when I understood. There are others, versions of me that stayed in the saddle long enough to disappear completely. And when they fall off, if they ever fall off, they come here, broken, wrong, and hungry. I didn't sleep, not even the false sleep. I waited until 3:17 a.m. The air change became heavier, electric, like before a storm. Then the knock came, not on the door this time, inside the closet. The sound of a hoof scraping the inside wall. One tap, then two, then silence. When I opened it, I didn't see the clothes or the shelves, just blackness, endless, cold, and in it, riders, dozens, hanging suspended like marionettes from invisible strings, all of them twisted, faces bloated, mouths frozen in silent howls. Some were missing limbs. Some were sewn shut with strands of their own hair. One of them floated close to me. Her eyes were gone, scooped out and stitched closed. But she spoke. "You fell off," she rasped, "but he let you return. Not many do." "I didn't fall," I replied. "I was let off." Her head twitched, bones creaking. That's what we all thought. Another floated past, a man with half a horse head fused to his shoulder. He whispered, "It rides you now." I backed away, shut the closet. But something came out with me. I feel it, in my chest, behind my eyes, like a second heartbeat, but not in rhythm with mine. It beats between the seconds. When I blink, the world skips. The walls breathe. My hands twitch like they're remembering rains that aren't there. Today, I found a trail of hoof prints leading down the stairs. Not made of mud this time. Made of ash. Still warm. I followed them outside for the first time in weeks. The world had changed. The sky was sickly orange. The people moved slower. Their shadows were wrong, stretching in the wrong direction. And no one looked me in the eye, as if they could see what was under my skin. Smell the ride on me. At the corner of 9th and Bell, I saw another one, a rider, not on a horse, just standing, watching traffic that didn't stop. She had no eyes, no mouth, only the burn mark of a bridle etched into her forehead. When I approached, she didn't move, but something passed between us. Knowledge, recognition. I wasn't the only one living after the ride. She lifted a hand slowly, one finger, pointed to the west, and whispered a single word into my mind: return. That night, the saddle reappeared in my living room. Not a hallucination. It was real, black leather, cracked, smoking slightly, just sitting there, waiting. I didn't sit. I couldn't, but I couldn't look away either. The thing wearing my face appeared again. Closer this time, right beside it. Its eyes were bleeding ash. It spoke without moving its lips. You delay. He waits. I tried to speak, to tell it I wanted out, that I never agreed to this. But my mouth didn't work right. My tongue felt too thick. My throat burned. Behind me, I heard hoofbeats. Soft, but coming closer. Not from outside. From under the floor. The boards creaked, then bulged, then cracked, and something began to rise. Beneath the floorboards. The sound of the floor splitting open wasn't loud. Not a crash, not a violent rupture, but a slow, moaning groan, like the wood itself was in pain. I stood frozen as the boards in the center of my living room began to bow upward, one by one, like something massive and ancient was pushing from below. The candlelight trembled. Shadows lengthened unnaturally. And then it happened. With a sudden snap, the boards cracked apart, and something began to rise. Not a creature. Not exactly. It was part of the house. At first, the wood that splintered upward took shape. 4 legs, a long neck, a mane made of barbed wire and black moss. It pulled itself from beneath like it had always been there, buried deep. A wooden horse, stitched together with old rope and rot and rage. Its eyes were sockets, black and bottomless, but they burned with recognition. It saw me, knew me, and then it spoke, not aloud, but straight into the marrow of my bones. You've delayed too long. The imitation me, still standing by the saddle, turned and smiled as the wooden beast creaked forward. The floor groaned beneath each hoofstep, but the house didn't collapse. It welcomed him. I backed away until my spine pressed into the far wall. No more. I whispered. I didn't ask for this. The wooden horse snorted, and splinters flew from its nostrils like sparks. Its breath smelled of ash and old blood. You accepted when you mounted the devil's steed. The ride never ends. It only waits. I turned and ran, not out the front door, because there wasn't one anymore. Just an endless corridor of fog and hoofbeats. I ran toward the window, crashed through it, glass and blood and freezing air. But outside wasn't the city anymore. It was the track, the same barren, hellish plain from every ride. Only this time, I wasn't riding. I was standing on it, barefoot, exposed, vulnerable. And I wasn't alone. The other riders stood at a distance, circling, silent, watching. Their horses stood still, steaming, twitching. Some were missing flesh. Others were little more than bone and hate. But all of them turned toward me. I realized something then. They weren't watching me. They were waiting. The wooden horse stepped out of the shattered window behind me. Not walking, gliding, dragging the room with it like a shroud. It grew taller in the track's light, its limbs stretching, mane writhing like snakes. It carried no rider. Not yet. Then, from the center of the circle, he stepped forward. The devil's horseman. Not a man. Not a demon. Something older. His face was obscured by a black, cracked mask shaped like a horse's skull. From his back sprouted what looked like broken stirrups. His hands were claws, wrapped in decayed leather reins that dragged behind him like veins torn from the earth. And in those reins I saw names, mine among them. He lifted his hand, and the wooden horse stopped, bowing its head. "You've ridden far," the horseman said. His voice was 1,000 gallops at once. "But you never learned to fall." I screamed, "I want out." He tilted his head. "You can't escape what you carry." Suddenly, pain seared across my back. I fell to my knees, reached around, and felt something growing. A saddle, not external. Inside me, my skin shifted, split, bone hardened in place. My body wasn't mine anymore. I was being made ready. The imitation me stepped out of the fog, no longer smiling. It looked angry, jealous, desperate. "I was chosen first," it hissed, "but you lasted longer." The horseman looked between us. "One of you must ride. The other must fall." I stood, breath ragged, tears of ash streaking my cheeks. "What happens if I fall willingly?" The horseman paused, then said, Then you ride beneath. And with that, the ground beneath me split open again. Only this time, I didn't resist. I let myself fall. Down, down, through layers of bone and fire and memory. Through screams that were my own. Through hooves that trampled my soul. And into the Undersaddle, the realm beneath the track, where the true riders dwell. Where the ones who fell voluntarily are kept and reshaped. I opened my eyes in darkness. I was no longer a man, no longer human, but I remembered. I always remembered. And above, on the track, I could hear the galloping begin again. Only now, it was me carrying someone else. The Undersaddle. There's no sky down here. No up, no down. Just endless twilight, dim and damp, like being buried alive under centuries of wet velvet. The Undersaddle stretches in every direction. Ash dunes, broken fences, rusted spurs nailed to black trees that weep tar. And the silence, it's not quiet, it's a presence. Thick, breathing, watching. I thought falling would mean freedom. I thought surrendering would end the torment, but it only shifted it. I am no longer chased. I am the one doing the chasing. My legs don't feel like mine. They stretch unnaturally far, like every step crosses a mile, and yet I never move. My hands are hooves now when the riding begins, though when I touch them, they're still flesh. Only when I chase do they shift, and I always chase. That's the punishment. Down here we are the beasts. Each of us once a rider, now reduced to tools for others. But unlike the surface mounts, we remember who we were. Every gallop, every scream on our back, it feeds the memory of what we lost, and the rage it stirs never cools. The worst part isn't carrying a new rider. It's recognizing them. I carried someone last night. A boy, 16 maybe, desperate eyes, mud on his boots. He screamed when he realized what he'd mounted. Screamed harder when my flesh began to burn beneath him. When I tried to buck him off, my own spine locked in place, obeying reins that weren't there. Because once you're part of the Undersaddle, your will doesn't matter anymore. You carry, and you remember. Every time his boot dug into my ribs, I remember my own first ride. That cold grip on my shoulder, the breath in my ear, the words I didn't understand until now. Don't fall or fall forever. I understand now. We are the fallen who refuse to let go. Some down here haven't moved in years. Their forms twisted into monstrous steeds, skulls cracked open and filled with saddles, necks stretched, eyes sewn shut. Some still mutter the names of their old lives. Others just weep, but none of us die. The Undersaddle doesn't let go. Today I saw her, the girl from the closet, the one with no eyes, who warned me before. She was tethered to a tree made of reins, her body shifting constantly. Hooves, hands, fur, bone. She looked at me with empty sockets and whispered, "We can ride out, if we remember how to walk." But I don't remember. I've been par horse for too long. Still, something stirs in me. A refusal. A flicker. That girl, she's not like the others. I saw it in her stance, the way the reins trembled when she spoke. The Undersaddle doesn't want her. It's afraid of her. I followed her through a bone canyon. Narrow walls, lined with carvings of failed riders. Faces I recognized, neighbors, strangers, myself, all twisted in agony, all open-mouthed in mid-scream. At the canyon's end, we found a door, an actual door, standing alone in the ash. It was made of skin, sewn together with red thread, a doorknob made of brass and teeth. I reached for it, but the girl stopped me. "You open it," she said, "and he'll know where we are." "Who?" I asked. She didn't blink. The original. Then she vanished. Gone. No trace. And behind me, the ground trembled. The other riders had noticed. They were coming. I ran, through dunes that screamed, past rivers of tar that whisper my sins, through fog that wrapped around my neck like a noose. And as I galloped, yes, I wasn't running anymore, I was galloping, I realized something horrifying. I wasn't alone inside my body. There was someone else riding with me, not on my back. Inside, a voice hidden until now, laughing. You thought the Undersaddle was punishment. it said, but you've only just begun. I tripped, fell, rolled in ash, and when I stood again, I saw the track above me, a thin slit in the world, flickering like heat haze, just there out of reach. But I felt it, a tear, a moment of weakness in the boundary, and then I saw it, the first horse, the one made of nothing. Shadow, flame, bone time. He doesn't ride. He chooses who does. And he was watching me, waiting. Behind him stood an army of saddles, empty, polished, hungry. And above me, in the slit of the track, the world was preparing for another ride. I could hear the hooves again, and they had my rhythm. The ride inside. It began before the ash settled. A lurch, not ground, but within me, like organs shifting, bones realigning without permission. I collapsed onto all fours, screaming without breath. My jaw unhinged, and from my throat came the sound of hoofbeats. Deep, endless, like a pulse from hell. Then the voice returned. Not a whisper this time. A command. Up. And I obeyed, not because I wanted to, because I couldn't resist. I rose, not as a man, not as a beast, but as something in between. Something born to ride and be ridden. My skin hardened in patches, cracked in others. My fingers stretched into long, bony reins. My spine arched until I couldn't stand upright. But I wasn't alone. The rider was coming. Inside me, he didn't need a saddle. He was a saddle. The original, the first who rode. The first who never got off. The one who invented the devil's horse and fed its souls in exchange for time, knowledge, and pain. He entered through my breath. He filled my lungs with ash, then my blood with smoke, then my eyes with fire. And I saw it all. The beginning, the first ride. It wasn't a legend. It wasn't metaphor. It was a ritual older than any written word. The forging of a pact. The breaking of a soul. A rider mounted a steed made of death and galloped through the first sin, never stopping, never slowing, until he became part of the curse. And now, I was his vessel, not chosen, claimed, but I wasn't gone. Not yet. My thoughts fought back. I screamed inside my own mind, clawing at the walls of my consciousness. I saw flickers of my old life, my name, my apartment, the candle, the mirror, the knock on the closet door. That was the first warning, the last choice, and I made the wrong one. But then her voice, the girl, the eyeless one, not from the Undersaddle now, but from somewhere higher. She called out, "Ride upward." And in that moment, the ashes beneath me began to spin. A vortex, pulling not down but up. The other riders screamed. Horses reared. The ground cracked open, revealing stars above where there had been only smoke. The sky broke like glass, and beyond it was a track again. The real one, the original path. And I was rising through it, not as prey, not as beast, but as something else. The wooden horse appeared beside me, racing alongside. Its eyes now burned with mercy, not malice. It remembered me. It remembered that I fell, but not for selfishness. I saw the imitation me again, far below, snarling, collapsing into dust as the truth burned through the lie. And then I saw the tree of saddles, floating above the track, its branches heavy with cursed leather and bone. Each saddle a soul, each bridle a fate. I was pulled toward it. No reins, no rider, just me and one empty branch. The original roar within me, trying to claw free. But I held tight, using every shred of memory I had, every scream I'd endured, every second I'd carried the weight. And then I let go, not of the ride, of him. I expelled him like fire from my throat. A cloud of smoke and howling, writhing and screaming. He didn't burn. He evaporated, screeching into the void, back to where Everson first crawled. I landed at the base of the tree, on my feet, human, but not quite. The other riders circled above, howling, galloping, flying. But they didn't touch me. They feared me now. I walked beneath the tree. Each saddle whispered. Some begged. Others screamed. One called my name. I looked up. It was mine. Cracked, burned, but still hanging, waiting. not to be ridden, to be buried. I reached up, grabbed it, and pulled. The saddle snapped from the branch, and the tree shivered. It cracked, branches blackened, saddles tumbled, the track trembled, and I ran, not away, forward. For the first time in all of this, I ran free. No reins, no voice behind my eyes, no burning on my back. Just me, the ashes beneath my feet, and the dying echo of hoofbeats far behind. The saddle grave. I ran for what felt like hours. No direction, no sky, just endless dust beneath my feet and the soft, eerie hush of a world rearranging itself behind me. Each step was lighter than the last. The saddle I had torn from a tree pulsed in my hands like a living thing, but it didn't fight me. It didn't speak. It simply waited, almost as if it, too, was tired of being worn, of being a prison strapped to screaming flesh. And then I saw it, a valley of stillness, miles wide, perfectly round. Ash had settled thick as snow here, soft and white like forgotten dreams. At its center was a pit, shallow, silent, surrounded by hundreds, no, thousands of broken saddles. Some burned, others shattered into splinters. Many were untouched but buried halfway in the ash, as if the earth had tried to pull them down and forget. I knew this place. Somehow, this was where the rides ended, not for everyone, but for those who fought back, those who let go. I stepped into the valley. My footfalls didn't echo. The ash swallowed the sound. I felt like I was sinking into a memory not my own. Each saddle I passed whispered, soft ghost-like things. Help me? Ride no more? Don't let him find me. I reached the center, the pit, only big enough for one. And I understood. I knelt and placed my saddle inside. It didn't resist. It sank like a stone into the stillness, and as it did, I felt something peel off my skin. A layer of sorrow, a film of fire, a presence I hadn't even realized was still with me. Gone. The moment the saddle disappeared, the valley changed. A wind rolled in, slow, steady, but it didn't scatter the ash. It revealed. Beneath the dust were footprints, not just mine, thousands of others, all leading out, away from the pit, away from the ride. I turned, and she was there again, the eyeless girl, standing just beyond the edge of the valley, dressed in soot and silence, her face unreadable, her voice still clear. "You're not free," she said, "but you're not ridden anymore." "Then what am I?" I asked. She stepped aside, revealing a narrow path I hadn't noticed. It led into a forest of pale trees, each one bent and twisted, as if they had grown from broken spines. She nodded toward it. "You're awake." I looked back once. The track was gone. So was the tree. So was the sky made of smoke and fire. Just quiet. Just choices. One path forward. No reins. No hooves. And as I walked, something in me changed. I didn't flinch at the darkness anymore. I didn't fear the shadows shifting in the trees, because I had ridden the devil's horse. I had carried the original inside me. I had galloped through fire and ash and soul. And now I walked, unridden, but never unchanged. Some nights, when the wind is just right, I hear the hoofbeats again, faint, far away, calling, waiting, but I keep walking. Because once you know the truth of the saddle, you never sit in silence again.